The Discovery Marcus Webb adjusted his maintenance tool belt as he walked through the dimly lit corridors of Station Omega 7. The mining platform orbited the gas giant Kepler 442b, serving as humanity's furthest outpost in the Vega system. For 3 months, the scratching sounds had been driving the crew insane, echoing through the ventilation shafts at random intervals throughout the day and night. Just rats, Chief Engineer Rodriguez had insisted during the morning briefing. Space vermin, they get into everything. But Marcus wasn't convinced. In his 20 years of deep space maintenance, he'd encountered every type of pest imaginable. This sound was different, more deliberate, almost rhythmic. The scratching grew louder as he approached Section C7, a storage area rarely visited by the crew. Marcus paused, listening carefully. The sound wasn't coming from the walls or ceiling. It was coming from below, from the restricted sublevel that housed the station's quantum. Communication Array. Marcus checked his clearance badge. Level 4 access should be enough for basic maintenance. He descended the narrow stairwell, his boots clanging against the metal steps. The air grew colder as he went deeper, and the scratching sounds became more distinct. Whatever was making that noise was just beyond the next sealed door. The access panel beeped as he swiped his card. Green light. The heavy door hissed open, revealing a corridor lined with gleaming servers and communication equipment. But it wasn't the technology that made Marcus freeze in place. It was the figure hunched over one of the terminals. The creature was roughly humanoid, but clearly not human. Its gray skin seemed to shimmer under the artificial light, and its elongated fingers moved with impossible speed across the keyboard. Most disturbing were its eyes, large and black, reflecting an intelligence that seemed ancient and calculating. Jesus. Christ, Marcus whispered, instinctively reaching for his emergency beacon. The creature spun around, its movements fluid and predatory. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal, but the words were perfect English. You should not be here, human. Marcus's training kicked in. Years of emergency protocols flooded his mind. This is a restricted area. You're not authorized to be here. The creature tilted its head, studying him with those unblinking black eyes. Authorization is irrelevant. Your species lacks the comprehension to understand what I am accessing. What are you? I am Zephyr, scout of the Void Collective. Your primitive communication array was transmitting signals across dimensions you cannot perceive. We came to investigate. Marcus's blood ran cold. First contact protocols existed, but they assumed humans would be the ones making contact. No one had prepared for this scenario, for aliens infiltrating human space undetected. How long have you been here? Long enough to understand that your species is more resilient than we anticipated. You build in places where others would perish. You persist despite impossible odds. Zephyr's voice carried something that might have been respect. This quality interests the collective. The scratching sounds Marcus had been hearing weren't random at all. They were the sound of alien claws interfacing with human technology, downloading everything humanity had learned about survival in the most hostile environments imaginable. Revelation Marcus kept his hand steady despite the fear coursing through his veins. What do you want with our data? Zephyr's elongated fingers continued their work on the terminal, streams of data flowing across multiple screens. Your species has accomplished something remarkable. In less than a century, you've spread across star systems that would kill most civilizations. You adapt, survive, and thrive in environments that others abandon. That's what we do, Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. Humans don't give up. Precisely. Zephyr paused its work, fixing those black eyes on Marcus. The collective has observed thousands of species across the galaxy. Most follow predictable patterns. They develop technology, expand cautiously, establish safe colonies. But humans ... The creature made a sound that might have been laughter. Humans leap into the void with insufficient preparation and somehow make it work. Marcus felt a surge of pride despite his terror. We're resourceful. Resourceful. Yes, that is an adequate term. Zephyr turned back to the terminal. Your mining operations here, for instance. This system was classified as uninhabitable by 3 separate advanced civilizations. The radiation levels, the gravitational anomalies, the unstable stellar activity. Yet humans looked at this place and saw opportunity. The alien's words triggered something in Marcus's memory. The briefings before his assignment had mentioned that previous survey teams had avoided this system. Only humans had seen potential in the dangerous environment. You're stealing our survival techniques, Marcus realized. Studying, Zephyr corrected. The collective faces an enemy that has consumed entire sectors of the galaxy. Traditional military might has proven insufficient. We need new approaches, unconventional strategies. What kind of enemy? Zephyr's movements became more agitated. The Devourers. They consume all organic matter, converting it to fuel their endless expansion. They have overrun civilizations far more advanced than yours. Standard defensive measures are useless against them. Marcus felt the weight of the revelation settling over him. And you think human tactics might work? Human tactics are chaos given form. You fight without honor, adapt without precedent, and survive without logic. Against an enemy that consumes order itself, chaos may be the only answer. The terminal chimed, and Zephyr straightened. The data transfer is complete. I have everything needed to understand human survival methodologies. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now I return to the collective and report my findings. Your species will be contacted officially within 1 solar cycle. And if we refuse to help? Zephyr's black eyes seemed to bore into Marcus's soul. Then the Devourers will eventually reach this sector, and your impressive survival skills will be tested against an enemy that has consumed civilizations spanning millions of years. The choice will be yours. The alien moved toward a section of the wall that Marcus now realized concealed some kind of transport device. You should report this encounter to your superiors. They will need time to prepare for what is coming. Wait, Marcus called out. Why are you telling me this? Why? Not just take the data and leave? Zephyr paused at the threshold. Because I have observed your species long enough to understand that you fight best when you understand the stakes. The collective could have taken your data without your knowledge, but we need more than information. We need allies who will fight, with the same desperate creativity that has carried humans across the stars. The transport device activated with a low hum, and Zephyr stepped through what appeared to be a tier in reality itself. Prepare your people, Marcus Webb. The universe is about to test humanity's greatest strength, the refusal to surrender. The warning Marcus stood alone in the communication room, staring at the spot where Zephyr had vanished. The silence felt deafening after the alien's departure. His hands shook as he activated his emergency beacon, knowing that the next few minutes would change everything for humanity. Within hours, Station Omega-7 was swarming with military personnel. Captain Diana Torres, commander of the nearest human fleet, had arrived with her flagship and a team of xenobiologists, linguists, and tactical experts. Marcus found himself in the station's main briefing room, repeating his story for the 5th time. Let me understand this correctly, Captain Torres said, her weathered face showing the strain of commanding humanity's outer defenses. This alien, Zephyr, claims that humanity's survival techniques are unique enough to help fight some galactic threat. The Devourers, Marcus confirmed. It said they consume entire civilizations, and traditional military approaches don't work against them. Dr. James Morrison, the fleet's xenobiologist, leaned forward. The biological readings from the room confirmed non-human DNA traces. Whatever you encountered, it wasn't human. The question is, Torres continued, Do we believe this story about a galactic threat, or is this some elaborate deception? Marcus had been asking himself the same question. Captain, I've worked on the frontier for 20 years. I've seen how humans tackle impossible problems. We don't follow the safe path. We take risks others won't take, adapt to situations others can't handle. If an alien civilization is desperate enough to study us, maybe we really do have something they need. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Lieutenant Commander Rachel Kim, Torres's tactical officer, spoke up. If this is true, we're looking at first contact with multiple alien species and a potential galactic war. Humanity isn't ready for that level of conflict. Maybe that's exactly why we might succeed, Marcus said. Zephyr said we fight without honor, adapt without precedent. Maybe being unprepared is our advantage. Torres studied the datapad in her hands. The communication logs show massive data transfers during the time frame you described. Terabytes of information about human colony operations, mining techniques, survival protocols. Someone or something accessed our entire database of frontier survival methods. What kind of information specifically? Dr. Morrison asked. Everything, Torres replied grimly. How we establish colonies on worlds with toxic atmospheres. How we mine resources from unstable asteroids. How we build habitats in the vacuum of space using nothing but salvaged materials. Every improvised solution humanity has ever devised for staying alive in hostile environments. Marcus felt a chill of realization. It's not just about fighting. It's about surviving. The Devourers might be so advanced that they can overwhelm any organized defense. But they might not understand how to deal with species that refuse to die, even when they should. Humanity's specialty, Lieutenant Commander Kim said with a grim smile. We're cockroaches. We survive anything. Torres activated the room's main display, showing a star map of human space. If this threat is real, we need to start preparing immediately. Not just militarily, but psychologically. We need to embrace what makes us different. What do you mean? Dr. Morrison asked. I mean, we stop trying to be like other civilizations. We stop following standard protocols and safe procedures. We need to be more human, not less. Torres's eyes blazed with determination. If chaos is our weapon, then we need to master it. Marcus nodded, understanding flooding through him. Zephyr said we fight best when we understand the stakes. Maybe that's the real message. Not just that we're going to face an enemy, but that we need to stop being ashamed of how we survive. How do we prepare for something like this? Kim asked. Torres smiled, and Marcus recognized the expression. It was the same look he'd seen on the faces of miners who chose to work in radiation storms, of engineers who built stations in impossible locations, of every human who had ever looked at certain death and decided to try anyway. We do what humans do best, Torres said. We improvise, adapt, and refuse to quit. And we prepare to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten a species that has turned survival into an art form. Then, preparation. 3 weeks after Marcus's encounter with Zephyr, humanity's response was already taking shape. Captain Torres had been promoted to admiral and given command of a new military division called the Survival Corps. Their mission wasn't traditional warfare, but something entirely different. Weaponizing humanity's most dangerous trait, the refusal to accept impossible odds. Marcus found himself at the center of this transformation, assigned as a technical advisor to help military strategists understand how civilian survival techniques could be adapted for combat. The briefing room on Earth's newest battle station buzzed with activity as officers from across human space gathered to discuss the unthinkable. The first rule of human survival, Marcus addressed the assembled group, is that there are no rules. When systems fail, when resources run out, when death seems certain, humans don't follow protocol. We make it up as we go along. Admiral Torres nodded approvingly. That's exactly the mindset we need to cultivate. Traditional military doctrine assumes predictable enemy behavior. But if the devourers are as advanced as Zephyr suggested, predictability will get us killed? Colonel Harrison Blake, a veteran of the Titan mining conflicts, raised his hand. How do we train soldiers to think like frontier survivors? Military discipline is built on following orders, not improvising. We change the training, Marcus replied. Instead of perfect execution of predetermined tactics, we teach adaptive problem solving. We put soldiers in impossible situations and make them find solutions. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the project's chief psychologist, added her perspective. Human psychology is unique among known species. We have a neurological quirk that makes us keep fighting even when rational analysis says we should surrender. Other species see this as a flaw, but it might be our greatest strength. Admiral Torres activated a holographic display showing human colonies across the galaxy. Look at these settlements. Asteroid mining operations in radiation fields. Underwater. Cities on tidally locked worlds. Stations built inside the coronas of dying stars. Any sane species would have declared these locations uninhabitable, but humans looked at them and saw home. The question is, Colonel Blake said, how do we turn this survival instinct into a military advantage? Marcus stood, feeling the weight of responsibility. We stop fighting like we're trying to win. We fight like we're trying to survive. There's a difference. Explain, Torres said. When you fight to win, you have objectives, strategies, acceptable losses. When you fight to survive, you use everything available, ignore casualties, and never stop adapting. Marcus's voice grew more intense. A human miner trapped in a collapsed tunnel doesn't follow safety protocols. They claw their way out with broken tools and improvised solutions. That's the mindset we need. Dr. Vasquez nodded enthusiastically. From a psychological standpoint, survival mode unlocks human potential in ways that traditional training never could. Fear, desperation, and the refusal to accept death create a mental state that generates innovative solutions. But how do we maintain unit cohesion if everyone's improvising? Colonel Blake asked. We don't, Admiral Torres said firmly. We abandon the idea of traditional unit cohesion. Instead, we train small groups to operate independently, to solve problems collectively, and to never give up regardless of circumstances. Marcus felt a surge of excitement, like colony teams. When a habitat fails, the survivors don't wait for orders from Earth. They work together, share resources, and find solutions. The group survives because individuals are willing to sacrifice for the collective. Exactly, Torres said. We're not training soldiers. We're training survivors who happen to be harmed. The room erupted in discussion as the implications became clear. This wasn't just a new military strategy. It was a fundamental reimagining of human potential. Instead of trying to match alien civilizations in technology or organization, humanity would embrace its chaotic, unpredictable nature. There's something else, Marcus said, quieting the room. Zephyr mentioned that the collective has been observing. U.S. They know our strengths, but they might not understand our weaknesses. What do you mean? Torres asked. Humans break. We suffer trauma. We make mistakes. We sometimes give up. But we also recover, learn, and come back stronger. Other species might see our failures as proof of inferiority. But our ability to bounce back from complete defeat might be incomprehensible to them. Dr. Vasquez smiled grimly. The devourers might be expecting humanity to follow logical patterns. They might not understand that humans become more dangerous when they're desperate. Admiral Torres stood, her expression resolute. And we make sure they never understand. We prepare for war not by becoming stronger, but by becoming more human. When the devourers come, They'll face something they've never encountered before, a species that turns desperation into victory. The test 6 months after first contact, the day of reckoning arrived. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching the outer colonies. The Devourers had found human space, and they were coming in force. Marcus stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Torres's flagship, watching the tactical display with a mixture of terror and anticipation. "Contact in T-minus 30 minutes, reported Lieutenant Commander Kim. "Fleet composition matches nothing in our databases. Energy signatures are off the charts." Admiral Torres moved between stations with calm efficiency, but Marcus could see the tension in her movements. "All survival teams, report readiness." The responses came from across the fleet. Mining Team Alpha, ready to adapt. Colony, Group Beta, prepared for improvisation. Salvage Unit Gamma, standing by for creative solutions. Marcus watched the display as the first Devourer ships became visible. They were massive geometric structures that seemed to absorb light itself. Traditional military minds would have analyzed their weaknesses, planned coordinated attacks, and followed established doctrine. But humanity had chosen a different path. "Remember," Torres announced to the entire fleet, "we don't fight to win. We fight to survive, and humans are very good at surviving." The first wave of Devourer attacks came without warning. Energy beams that should have vaporized human ships instead found empty space. The survival teams had scattered, abandoning formation, and using tactics borrowed from asteroid miners and deep space salvagers. Where other species would have maintained battle lines, humans became a swarm of unpredictable threats. "Marcus," Torres called out, "your people are up. Show them what human engineering can accomplish." Marcus activated the fleet's communication system, addressing the technical teams spread across hundreds of vessels. "This is what we trained for. The Devourers expect us to fight like civilized species. Instead, we're going to fight like humans, who refuse to die." The response was immediate and chaotic. Mining ships modified their drilling lasers into weapons. Colony vessels used their habitat construction tools to create improvised barriers. Salvage crews turned their ships into ramming weapons, pilots ejecting at the last moment to be picked up by rescue teams. "They're not adapting to our tactics," Kim reported, excitement in her voice. "The Devourers are trying to respond to coordinated attacks that aren't happening." Marcus watched as human ships performed maneuvers that violated every principle of space combat. Instead of maintaining safe distances, they moved in close, using the Devourers' own energy weapons against them. Instead of protecting valuable assets, they turned everything into a weapon. "Survival Team Charlie reporting," came a voice over the communication system. "We've crashed our ship into a Devourer vessel and are now operating from inside their hull. Recommend other teams try." "Similar approach." Torres smiled fiercely. "You heard them. All teams consider ramming speed." What followed was the most chaotic battle in recorded history. Human ships didn't retreat when damaged. They accelerated toward enemy vessels. When weapons failed, crews improvised explosives from mining equipment. When ships were destroyed, survivors used escape pods as attack vehicles. The Devourers, despite their advanced technology, couldn't adapt to an enemy that refused to follow logical patterns. They had conquered civilizations by overwhelming their organized defenses, but humans had no organization to overwhelm. Every human ship fought like the last survivor of a colony disaster, using desperate ingenuity to stay alive one more minute. "Marcus," Torres said, "look at those readings. The Devourers are actually retreating." Marcus stared at the tactical display in amazement. The geometric vessels were pulling back, their formation breaking apart as they faced an enemy that made no sense. "They can't understand us. We're not fighting like any species they've encountered." "Because we're not," Torres replied. We're fighting like humans. The battle continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Devourers, masters of conventional warfare, had no answer for humanity's chaotic survival instinct. They withdrew from human space, leaving behind wreckage and the proof that sometimes the most advanced solution to a problem is the simplest. Refused to give up Dot as the fleet regrouped. Marcus felt a profound sense of pride. Humanity had faced extinction and responded not with superior technology or brilliant strategy, but with the same stubborn determination that had carried them to the stars. They had survived not by becoming something else, but by becoming more. Human, Admiral, Kim reported. We're receiving a transmission from the Void Collective. Torres nodded. Put it through. Zephyr's voice filled the bridge, carrying what sounded like approval. Impressive, humans. You have shown the galaxy that survival is not about strength or technology, but about the refusal to accept defeat. The collective wishes to discuss a formal alliance. Marcus smiled, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed so hostile. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not by conforming to alien expectations, but by embracing what made them uniquely human. The scratching sounds that had started this journey had led to the discovery of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to turn desperation into hope, chaos into victory, and survival into triumph. The future was uncertain, but Marcus knew one thing for sure. As long as humans remained human, they would find a way to survive whatever the universe threw at them.